it's almost business as usual for these guys, for this crew at least, which to me is crazy. Same thing with the NBA. They have the same type of like analytics and data on the refs in the NBA as well. Who's calling who's calling that this many fouls, that many fouls. So it's mad interesting to me.
You know who originated that, right?
No.
Sports Bettors.
Got it. For any
this referee calls more fouls in the NBA.
So I'm taking the over
action, right?
So
how many times do you see Scott Foster? Right? Isn't that his name in the NBA?
Yeah.
Right? When who was the ref?
Tony, the one that hates Melo, Tony Brothers.
No, that hates Chris Paul. Chris Paul was like 1 and 18. It might be him.
No, or maybe it's Foster.
I think it might be.
I know exactly.
But it's one of those guys where it's like Chris Paul hasn't won a playoff game.
It's the way he officiates and the way he plays.
Right. So there's always those little tidbits, but that originated from Sports Bettors. They would look at officiating crews. Oh, this one throws a lot of PIs. Maybe we value the dog.
Where do I get the advantage? No.
And it's cool to see that spill into analytics. Bro, analytics originated from sports betting. At its core, it's essentially the same thing.
I actually listened to the Simmons pod with Bob Voulgaris, who was the Mavericks advisor.
Shout out to the Greeks.
Yeah, he basically, for those of you listening who don't know who Bob Voulgaris is, he was a really successful sports bettor in the data space, built these models and, really great at predicting sports betting. Got to the point where he was hired by the Mavericks and Mark Cuban to come in and really kind of help elevate some of their data, the side of the world. And he got pretty high up in the organization until about last year. That article came out where a couple people were saying that he's no fun to work with, XYZ. And regardless, he's not working with the Mavs anymore. But he's a guy who went from sports betting data guy to top advisor for the Dallas Mavericks. So that's pretty crazy. And it was just an interesting interview. I definitely recommend it. But yeah, Waller's hurt.
Yeah, I think so. And Zeke now, they're saying how they really want to sit him, though they play on Thursday.
We were going to talk about some of the injuries, and I'll mention it again, or we could talk about it now. But
yeah, let's do it now.
You mentioned Zeke, and I love what Dallas did in terms of roster construction, and it's easy to say because they have a good backup. But to me, it's like you pay all this money to a big name running back, a high profile, very talented running back. It's like, why don't you spend a lot of money on the backup if the idea is your offense is built around that guy? To me, it's almost criminal what's happening in Tennessee, for example. Your whole offense is built around this one running back, and he gets paid a shit ton of money. Why wouldn't you spend a lot of draft capital or spend a lot of money on a really good backup just in case this happens? Like,
especially when your system is
built around that guy. It's crazy to me, and I love what Dallas is doing in a sense of they have a really great backup, and their offense is more or less built around the running game. So it just makes a whole bunch of sense. So the teams that have done a good job building from top to bottom with depth are going to be able to kind of ride these storms out a bit. And obviously the McCaffrey thing is he's out for the season, but I mean they drafted Chuba Hubbard, who's looked solid in some of those games, and that's a good example of it as well.
Nah, you bring up a fascinating point. I never thought about that, but if you think of Minnesota. Madison,
he's pretty good.
When he steps in, I'm always on Twitter first one like, that's why I ain't paying Dalvin Cook. But you're right, investing in a backup in that scenario for a team like Minnesota, for a team like the Titans, and maybe I would even throw Pittsburgh in that mix now too.
Yeah.
Like you spend a first round pick on Najee Harris, he's super valuable to your team. Why not have a good backup?
Yeah.
Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine has had some moments too.
Yeah. So it's just fascinating to me that some folks aren't doing it, and the good ones are. So, some look at Baltimore, like it's a revolving door at running back, and anyway, just
but Baltimore I think is a unique example because
the quarterback is
it's the quarterback for sure, but just historically they've never had a back-to-back leading rusher at running back the same year since like Ray Rice.
Okay.
But remember like Willis McGahee was there for a little bit. And then it was Alex Collins was there. And then J.K. Dobbins. And I know Ray Rice, obviously. But they always had these other dudes who would come in. Oh, Justin Forsett. Remember that year? That was like 2015-ish.
It's a revolving door.
They've always had a new guy. Gus Edwards also.
And that's why I kind of love the idea of the system and not the players. I mean, obviously you pay great players and all of that, but like look at what the Niners are doing, man. Like they're still battling injuries, and it's just like next man up. It's the system, and I know you don't love Shanahan, but like they're
hold off on that because that's one of the talking points that I want to say for this show. We'll get to that in 1 second. However, this is the second pod that I do. Shouts to Upsets and Underdogs with Will Blackman.